Robert Downey Jr. is doing his homework. A new Thunderbolts teaser shows off the talent off screen, and The Last of Us Season 2 official trailer leaves everyone with feels. All that and so much more coming up right after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me today we have Haley Hobbs. What's going on, Haley?
Well, under the glow of the bloodworm moon, Multiverse News will thrive.
Oh man, let's just not explain that. I like it.
Google exists. You can look it up yourself, listener.
Yes, we're under a bloodworm moon. It is a strange thing. And J. Scotty St. Clair, what's happening?
Yeah, I didn't know about the bloodworm moon until a few minutes ago, so I'm just getting ready for some kind of ritual sacrifice that feels right.
You watch too many A24 movies. And Jay Sisson, how's it going, Jay?
Hey, maybe we decided to do Multiverse News now to harness the power of the bloodworm moon rather than our normal time. Like right now there's some sort of spiritual energy. And it just helps our podcast really do things it's never done before, harness some sort of mystical power.
It's a good call. This is our big week. It's our big week. Let's not drop the ball.
Incoming message from the bloodworm moon.
I'd like a clip of Jay saying, mystical power.
Yeah, I mean, we could clip that probably. It's probably
pretty
easy
good.
enough.
It's doable. It's for sure doable. All right, well, we have a 5-star review this week from Mitchell MW. Says, this podcast never disappoints. Every episode dives deep into fascinating topics with just the right mix of insight and entertainment. The hosts have great chemistry, and the discussions are always engaging. It's the kind of show that makes you excited when a new episode drops. You know you're in for something interesting. Highly recommend. And thank you so much, Mitchell. That's very kind.
It's always interesting here.
Yeah.
Can we call you Mitch? I feel like there's that level of familiarity based on that review.
Yeah. Let us know, Mitch. Sorry. Don't want to jump to that. Don't want to assume. By the way, speaking of 5-star reviews, we are doing a review contest all over Stranded Panda right now. If you go to strandedpanda.com, the first little banner on the thing, we're giving away a PS5 and 2 Marvel games, Spider-Man 2 and Marvel 1943 Rise of Hydra. So if you want to win a PS5, you can review the podcast, and we're going to do a random number generator. You review the podcast and then send a screenshot of your review or your rating on Spotify to strandedpandacontest@gmail.com. All the instructions are on the strandedpanda.com. Click on that banner, and it will give you all the instructions and has a link to every applicable show. So you can get to the Apple and the Spotify. It's a very helpful little page to do it if you're going to do it.
So go do
like
it.
Mitch.
Be like Mitch. Be ready to win a PS5. And we're doing this tonight recording on Thursday tonight because, as we've mentioned the last few weeks, Daredevil Born Again is playing on Tuesdays, so we're still kind of working out the kinks. But I'm excited I can be here this week. Last week I couldn't make it because Daredevil plus other life stuff. So thanks for letting me join this week, guys.
It's always good to get the band back together.
Absolutely. All right. Well, y'all want to dive into the first story?
Yeah.
Let's dive on in.
All right, here we go. This doctor makes house calls. Russo brothers Joe and Anthony told Entertainment Tonight that Iron Man turned Doom actor Robert Downey Jr. is doing a lot of work to prepare for his role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. His new role in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Joe Russo commented that Downey is dialed in, and the actor is even writing backstory for the character, immersing himself in the role. It seems hard to believe that it was just July that the announcement was made about Downey returning in the MCU in his new mask, new task role. What is our take hearing this commitment?
If you know much about Robert Downey Jr. as an actor, you really shouldn't be surprised at his level of commitment. The man's an Oscar winner now, and it was a long time coming. I harken back to his role as Charlie Chaplin back in his way younger years, and he did a lot of prep work for that role. And so one thing I do love about RDJ is he does seem to love the MCU and appreciate what it did for him as an actor and as a person. And so I really loved seeing this, that he's like super into it. They talked about how he's like coming up with costume ideas for Doom and just like totally going, you know, all in on the kitty. So I was like, that sounds like the RDJ we want, and it sounds like the Doom we want. The Russos talk about how Doom is this extremely complicated character, and I think RDJ did too, about like he's the most complicated character in Marvel Comics. So I just love it. I love to see it, and it really does get me excited for Doomsday. I know we talked about the leaked concept art last week, and I was just kind of like, now I'm doubling down on this movie feeling really, really real and exciting, and like we're getting it next year.
It's
so
crazy.
Close.
Yeah. My fiance was looking at at some news story. She used to listen to Multiverse News, kind of stopped, but you know, she's not into the geeky things. She was only listening to it because she was excited about it being our new show when it first started, and then she stopped. But so she was going through, and she's like, "Oh, we saw Vanessa Kirby in a new movie, Pieces of a Woman, last night," and I was just like, "Oh yeah, she's in the new Fantastic Four, Matt. Did you know that?" And I was like, "Yes, I did. Yes, I did."
It's nice of her to keep you informed.
Yeah, thank you for letting me know. And then she's like, "Oh, and she's in 2 Avengers movie in 2026 and 2027. That's crazy." And I was like, "Yeah, that is crazy." But yes, I am aware. This is really, really funny. But yeah, this is just crazy. This is so soon, and 2 Avengers movies in basically 2 years from now. I mean, 2 years and 2 months. That's really wild. And I do get really excited by hearing that Robert Downey Jr. is taking this very seriously. I think one of the reasons the whole MCU worked is because RDJ took Iron Man incredibly seriously, and both from he's an actor that takes it seriously from a character perspective and like a pathos perspective, but like also just entertaining, makes the character entertaining. And I think finding a new way to do that with this character that is different from Iron Man, I'm really excited to see what he comes up with.
I like what I'm hearing, but it does give me pause. And RDJ's talent, character work, or his process are no way in question for me. But I'm hoping this backstory that he's concocted is at least somewhat informed by the comics, because again, we don't know what version of or what version of Doom we're getting here. But with the Tony Stark of it all, I'm still hoping that we're going to get some kind of inversion of the infamous Iron Man run from Brian Michael Bendis, where Doom takes up the mantle of Iron Man. So hopefully it's vice versa here, where we have Iron Man taking up the mantle of Doom. But with all of that in mind, I've gotten back into comics recently, and I've been reading Dan Slott's 2018 Fantastic Four run, and it really has reminded me of who and what Doom is, as well as what he's not. So again, we have basically 3 movies that we know he's going to appear in. First, he's going to show up in Fantastic Four First Steps, probably right at the very end. Then we'll get Doomsday, and then we'll get Secret Wars. I think my hope is that at least that appearance in Fantastic Four, while it might be limited, he just really leans into like the comic book version of Doom. Just like give us this maniacal, egotistical version that we've always seen. And then in Doomsday, give us the backstory and let us know how he's informed by being a variant of Tony Stark. Because again, I'm really leaning into that. If that's not the case, and this is just stunt casting, that's not going to sit well with me. I know RDJ has all the talent in the world, but I really need this version of Doom to be connected to Tony Stark in some way.
Yeah, I think that's what you hope is that everybody's coming to the table feeling a little bit refreshed. I mean, the cynical take is everybody's just in it for the money, and RDJ's in it for the private trailer park and the jets and all of the giant contract that he got. And that's the cynical take. But I think the other way to look at it is to say, all right, the Russos didn't have to do this. They didn't have to come back. They maybe had an idea. Even we heard this from Stephen McFeely whenever they called McFeely, and they said, we want to do this. We want to do this 2 Avengers thing, these 2 movies. And he essentially, by his words, hung up on them and then called them back the next day and said, well, actually, wait a minute. I think I have a really good idea for this. And I think that's the hope here, is that everybody's coming to the table fresh. And the MCU, while it accomplished so much and told this sprawling story over decades, essentially, it's probably burned some of these guys out a little bit. I mean, doing Avengers Infinity War, doing Endgame, like that's a lot for Robert Downey Jr. and for the Russos and McFeely and all of these people associated. So they took their break. He got his Oscar. The Russos went out, tried a couple projects out. And so I think like coming back together to the table, there's hope there that there's a little bit of freshness. It's a little bit of like, all right, we've taken a little bit of a break and now we've thought on some ideas, we stewed on some stuff, and we can bring a lot to the table. And hopefully that's what they're saying with this quote, is that RDJ is feeling like he's ready to tackle it again with fresh vision.
Yeah.
I go back and forth, like, do I want this to be a Tony Stark variant or not? I know it would be really hard for the mass public to unsee it, right? You can't ask somebody who only watches some of the movies, maybe not even all of them, to go to the theater and accept that this is not Tony Stark as Victor Von Doom. But I don't know. I wonder, like, I don't think Robert Downey Jr. would do it without being able to do what you're saying and give the character a ton of nuance. I mean, a lot of times in comics, Doom is just the man behind the mask, and you don't get a lot of, it's hard to emote and stuff like that. And RDJ famously hated like the heads up scenes as Iron Man because all he could, like, he couldn't move. He couldn't, like, so because he's an actor that likes to move and he likes to be physical. And so I think that it's an interesting challenge for him in that way. And so hopefully that's along the lines of what he's doing. Like, how do I make this character work for me as an actor and the way I like to do things? If you listen to the commentary on the first Avengers movie, Joss Whedon talks about how his first scene that he filmed as Tony Stark was the scene where Fury's telling them that Coulson died, and he just had to sit there and be still, and he hated it. And so that makes me very interested to see what he's going to do, what notes he's going to give himself to play this character that's very, hidden away behind costuming and stuff.
Yeah, I don't think they'll do this in a million years, but I can't help but think, with everything you're mentioning there, Haley, like, what if the only reason he took this on is to prove something? Like, yeah, Doom is only going to be behind the mask, and it's the ultimate challenge. Like, how do you deliver without ever seeing my face? And it's all just based on a physical and voice performance there. Like, again, they won't do that because with a bankable star like RDJ, you're going to show the face probably more often than not. But again, that's kind of my hope for maybe that Fantastic Four movie. You just see him and he doesn't remove the mask, and that's where you really get that like comic book version of Doom people have been pining for so many years. And then in the next two movies, we can, lean into the Tony Stark of it, or like, Haley, if you're right, maybe not.
I don't know if I'm right, and I don't know if I want to be right. I'm just like, I ponder it every now and then.
Sure.
Yeah. I just find it so funny, the stratification that this has caused, and it has not gone away, and there's not been like, a lot of times the geek sphere will hear news and it sort of like chews on it for a few days, and then there's sort of a narrative develops that everyone's kind of like, all right, yeah, we all kind of see, we've heard the arguments of how this could work and how it couldn't work, and we kind of like come to a consensus on like, everyone's excited about this, everyone's worried about this, like, and that's not true. Everybody has their own opinions specific. That's why we do these podcasts, because we all have our own 4 different opinions, even though we're all similar perspectives, I would say, on things. We all have very different opinions sometimes. It's just interesting that I don't think this one has coalesced at all. There are still people out there that are just like, it better not, this better be Doom, and it better not be a variant of Tony Stark. And then there's other people that are like, this better not be just stunt casting, like you were saying, Jace. Like, it's just like, those two things are still completely coexisting, and there has not been a unified narrative. And then, like you said, Haley, you're like, I don't know what I want. Like, I don't, it could be either way, and I don't know. It's weird and squishy, like, and they better have a great idea, is all I'm saying. Like, I don't know what I want either. But I trust these guys, and just hope that it's not just money that's making this happen, and that it's some sort of passion behind it. And that's what the story is tonight. That it seems like that's at least the narrative they're selling.
Let's ask the Bloodworm Moon and see.
I'll ping it off camera.
Oh, Bloodworm Moon.
We need to figure out how to talk to this thing. I mean, I don't know.
I really enjoyed the. There's a. Did you ever watch those G.I. Joe? The ones that came out early internet videos where like the G.I. Joes were like,
we're making
bottom
sloppy
massage.
joes.
We're making sloppy joes over here. I'm a computer. Like all that weird stuff. Like it was so good. I loved it. But one of them is the guy keeps saying bottom massage, and he goes, bottom massage. And me and my friends took a funk beat and laid that down over it and put a bunch of like music over it. And so there's a recording of this music going home. And Haley, you just reminded me of it a lot with your Blood Moon.
Well, I'm expecting a Blood Worm Moon track now. So
yeah, oh yeah. We'll take
we're reciting the early internet magic tonight.
Yeah.
Do not speak of the deep magic to me, witch.
maybe we only bring up the G.I. Joes is because that's the last. That's the last time the Bloodworm Moon came around, and it inspired those. And now we're the next iteration of the Bloodworm Moon.
We will design a toy line of action figures. It will become a multimedia franchise.
When they speak of this episode in the future, they'll just say you had to be there. You know?
And they will.
Yes, had to be there.
And they will. All right, up next. In a new move for Marvel Studios, the latest Thunderbolt teaser had title cards between shots of the movie showcasing all the talent behind the film that people might recognize. Shots of actors were intercut with cards citing the acting credits outside of the MCU and behind the camera credits for writing, directing, composing, cinematography, and editing. Projects mentioned by these cards include Midsommar. How do you say that? Midsommar?
Most people say Midsommar, but I started saying Midsommar, and I can't get off that train. So people probably hear me and like, ugh, he's so obnoxious or pretentious.
I've always said Midsommar because that's what I've heard, but it doesn't look like Midsommar. Okay, anyway. Projects mentioned by these credits are Midsommar, Everything Everywhere All at Once, my favorite movie, Beef, The Green Knight, A Different Man, as well as a couple of others. Director Jake Schreier cited a goal given by Kevin Feige to make can't say Kevin Feige tonight.
Kevin Feige.
Kevin Feige.
Kevin
Yeah, that's right.
Feige.
Kevin Feige.
Yeah, how would you say that, pretentious Jay Scotty?
Yeah.
Kevin Feige. Director Jake Schreier cited a goal given by Kevin Feige to make the film different, and this seems to be one of the ways Schreier is attempting to do so. What does it mean to list outside projects on an MCU blockbuster as a tactic?
More and more, this movie feels like it was just tailor-made for me, and I'm getting to that point where I have to get very careful about keeping my expectations in check, because I'm excited for a movie when I start to dream about going to see the movie. Like, what are we still a good 2 months out here? I had a dream, I think it was just last night, if not the night before, that I went to see the movie. And it was one of those weird dreams where I was like not paying attention to the movie and I got mad at myself.
It was the Bloodworm Moon.
It was the Bloodworm Moon. Yeah, let's blame it on the Bloodworm Moon here. But I actually held off on watching this trailer because I was just kind of at that point. I didn't know if I needed to see anything more. But after some coaxing from one Matthew Carroll here, I'm glad that I watched it because it was big on vibes and light on footage, and new footage, that is. And if you're going to do trailers like this, that's the way to do it for me. We already had 2 great trailers that did a great job setting up the story and the characters. Now, if you just want to lean into vibes, I'm cool with that. Now, the A24 comparisons I do appreciate, but I take it in stride, and I kind of, take it with a grain of salt, because at the end of the day, even with the director's comments here that he got the mandate from Feige to do something different, which is encouraging, at the end of the day, this is probably going to feel more like a standard Marvel movie than an A24 film. But again, I am glad that they're leaning into those comparisons, and there's no denying the strong character work, featured in all of the writers' previous work, which is super encouraging. We got Joanna Kahlo, who is a co-creator of The Bear. Lee Sung-jin co-created Beef. And then we've got Eric Pearson, who's kind of acting as the de facto in-house contributor, and he's worked on Ragnarok, Black Widow, and the upcoming Fantastic Four First Steps. So I think that bodes really well for me. That sounds like they have a nice combination of like outside new brains, new takes coming in, but then, someone to kind of keep the ship right and make sure it fits within the continuity of everything else. So, yeah. A24 did respond on Twitter, and I appreciated their response because they used a GIF from Euphoria where they were like, what the F? Is this new play about us? So I think, they're kind of leaning into it as well. We're like, okay, you want to be like us, that's cool, but you're not really like us. So
if they dropped the Kendrick Lamar song, that would have been a very different vibe. They not like us. They not like us.
That would have been good. But I want to take every opportunity I can to lay claim to my theory that the Asterix, again, I think we're going to get the reveal that this team is going to be named the champions when it's all said and done. So you heard it here first.
So, hey, that's why you come here.
Yeah.
You got a beam from the future from the Bloodworm Moon. It sent it straight to you, gift wrapped.
Breakfast of Champions.
Can we please just call this episode Bloodworm Moon?
Yeah, just
Also, you're welcome.
Yeah, right.
I thought this was a weird trailer. Like because it's showing off the connections to that, not even just the talent behind the camera has, but in front of the camera too, is saying like stars of this and this and this and this, and it seemed to go on and on and on with really the A24. Like it was double, triple, quadrupling down on the A24 connection. And Florence Pugh was even asked in an interview later after this trailer came out about this, and she really tried to say that it was a Marvel movie without saying it's a Marvel movie. Kind of, it was kind of like, well, it actually ended up kind of being this like badass assassin indie sort of film, but just with these Marvel characters or something kind of thing. And again, it's like, I guess the cynical take is kind of like they really are trying to push it to be like, this isn't what you think. We know you haven't been coming to the theater for these, so this one's way different or something like that. And I guess you can look at it and kind of, from my perspective, I look at it and kind of think, all right, this was kind of a strange marketing tactic, I think, like trying to kind of be like, we're with that guy and that guy and that guy and that guy, so that's why you should come see this. At the same time, I think, like Scotty, like you said, the talent is there for sure, and it's a unique talent set that we haven't really seen in Marvel films before. Like the body of work is undeniably different from what we're used to in seeing. Like the director, the lead, the writer, the cinematographer, and that combination is unique for this movie. And so I think that gives you reason to be excited. But I don't know, I didn't walk away like hating it or being like that was dumb or whatever, but I kind of walked away just being like, oh, that was a choice, I guess, like to market your movie. But still, I mean, still excited for it, obviously, because the culmination of the talent exists. I mean, they showed it to you; it's there. But I don't know. I just this didn't land with me. I guess maybe in the same way that maybe they intended it to. I guess.
You're just not an A24 guy, and that's okay.
Yeah, I think it's a really interesting tactic for sure. And I mean, it's a symptom of the larger issue of, superhero movies aren't doing as well. They need to bring in the audiences that like have a different I think more than superhero movies and more than Marvel fatigue, there's a fatigue to like the idea that these movies are big bubblegum movies that don't have heart. And I think this is an attempt to say, hey, we gave this all the heart. Like we took all the heart from all the other movies in the last few years and we tried to shove it together into this one. And like they got really good talent, and that's what you want. I mean, that it's an interesting tactic, but it's also a very kind of directly what I think critics of the MCU would say it needs, which is like, give really good artists a chance to do their art inside your universe. And that's when I think the MCU works at its best. And so if that's what they're doing and it's not too cookie cutter and corporate down, it's actually giving these artists from these set designers and the great people from the industry and letting them do their jobs well. That's what you want. So hopefully that's what we're getting.
Yeah, people still have an appetite for this stuff if it's done in a unique way. I mean, think about like The Boys, for example. Like it's this whole superhero thing, and it sort of riffs on Marvel and DC, but it's a huge show because it is really unique. It's in its own corner, and it says its own things that a lot of other films don't do. And so I think people have an appetite for unique takes It's just I don't know if they can necessarily ride on the, hey, it's this guy who was in that thing anymore. Like maybe they could between the Avengers movies, but now they kind of have to sort of be like, here's why you should see this one in the theater and not wait for Disney Plus, or whatever. And I guess to that end, that's kind of the vision here for this particular sort of ad campaign.
The Boys is an interesting pull for you to say, because I've been saying it for a while now that The Boys and Invincible and things like that sort of deconstruct the idea of superheroes is, I think, a big sign that not necessarily fatigue, but growth of the superhero movie in a way that, or superhero genre in a way that could end the more earnest ones. I've often made the comparison, I'm sure I've probably done it on this show, made the comparison between superhero movies and Westerns, and part of what happens with a Western is you have this very, like, the Westerns, it's like cowboys versus Indians, and then as culture grows and you realize, like, oh, Native Americans who have their own perspective and they were being slaughtered, it's like, oh, we got to move away from this, and there's like all these questions, and you don't just believe a guy with a gun and a white hat is a good guy anymore, and like you start questioning the sort of like the lawmen of the time, and you start questioning, when you start asking these bigger questions, like what does it mean for Homelander to have all that power, it is the beginning of deconstructing and maybe like sort of like moving away from it as a culture. The idea that having the most power is the wish fulfillment, you know what I mean? And instead, in The Boys, it's the people with no powers fighting that power. And it's an interesting, the reason I say it's an interesting pull is because that's kind of what this movie is. It's putting all these characters with no powers, and they're going to be going up against at least a character with a lot of power. And it's, what is that? It is very much The Boys. And it's interesting, I've been talking about that dynamic with The Boys, and I hadn't thought of it in the context of the Thunderbolts, but the Thunderbolts is asking that question inside the MCU and like taking on that question directly, which for me is exciting, at least as a question of what does that do to superhero culture. And, if the biggest franchise is starting to ask those same questions, and how hard will they go at that question? It already asked those questions in Falcon and Winter Soldier with the whole, like, super soldiers are inherently supremacist. Like that whole conversation, they gave it to a villain to have that conversation about, you know what I mean? But like they still were asking those questions, and like, what does it mean to ask that question so directly in a big budget Marvel movie? It's exciting for me. I as exciting as this trailer is. This trailer's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. At the end of the day, I think this trailer wasn't made for the four of us or people like us.
Yeah,
I think it was made to have a broader appeal. Oh, you like Florence Pugh? You liked her in Midsommar? Like, oh yeah, she's in this. You liked all of these people that worked on The Green Knight and Beef and Everything Everywhere All at Once, the Best Picture winner. You'll like this movie too. And so I do think this is absolutely a pull to get new audience in for a team-up movie. I've talked about this before, but we haven't had a team-up movie in a long time. I don't even really think I would count Guardians 3 as a team-up movie because they're already a team. So it's not it's not like disparate things coming together like a first team-up movie can be. So I really think Marvel is banking hard on this one. I think that they want it to be very successful, but I think they do want to draw in a different crowd and say, no, we're not just doing cookie cutter movies. Like, I loved Brave New World, but it's tropey. It's perfect comic book tropey in its way. And so, I think it's an interesting tactic. Like, analytically, I wonder how successful it is, because I think people like us, like Jay, you were like, oh yeah, okay, moving on. But I do wonder, like, did it hit the reach they wanted with people who maybe don't typically come out for Marvel?
Let's be honest, Jay's waiting for Disney Plus anyway.
Still hasn't seen Brave New World.
I've been known to wait for a good Disney Plus release.
Shame.
You say it's not for the four of us, but this one is definitely for Jay Scotty, though. I will say that.
Come on. Yeah.
You're gonna see it anyway, Jay Scotty, but this one was like, as you said when you started talking about it, this one's tailor made for you. All right. Well, let's move on to the next story here. Oh man, this is exciting. On March 8th, HBO released an official trailer for The Last of Us Season 2. Several of us on this panel have a special place in our hearts for the show. Let's talk about it.
Yeah, this trailer took a little bit of a different tone than the first one that we saw. The first one that we saw didn't show us a whole lot. It was very teaser-like. It was just like real quick, like bam, 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 just kind of shots of the landscape and all that. And this trailer got a lot more into the story aspects that I think we'll see in The Last of Us Season 2. If you've played The Last of Us 2, the game, you sort of know the basic idea of the story, but I think we probably will have to see The Last of Us Season 2 cut that story at some point. And after watching this trailer, I'm kind of getting my head around as to where I think that will be. But I think that what that means is that is going to set up a really interesting character study here. We know from the trailer, we obviously have the returning characters, Pedro Pascal's Joel, Bella Ramsey's Ellie, but now we've seen a lot more in this trailer of Caitlin Dever's Abby, who's a key player in The Last of Us 2 as well. And I think that's going to be an interesting side plot here, like as the conversation and culture starts around this show, like as this show starts to hit the Sunday night and people are watching it and they're talking about it online and there's the discussions going on, there's going to be a really interesting discussion about character dynamics here as we see these three characters really evolve and we kind of add this other main character to the mix. So I don't want to go too much further into that because I don't want to spoil anything or run us down a road where we're, changing your expectation of the show or anything like that. But yeah, I'm obviously excited for this. I've, had podcasted about The Last of Us and have talked about it at length about how I really like that story. And I think it's a really one of the, best gaming experiences that I've ever had playing The Last of Us Part 2. But I'm fascinated in how in just 7 episodes, we're going to tell a story and we're going to find a stopping point on that story. And then what will we continue to do from there? I saw the other day that they're picturing The Last of Us Part 2 as being, The Last of Us as a show as being about a 4-season show or something like that. I think is kind of what they were saying, which
Right.
That's interesting to me, right? Like 4 seasons seems short, especially with only about 7 episodes. But the source material does run out after the second game, unless there's a third one around the corner. So it does sort of present a challenge a little bit, but
That George R.R. Martin type challenge.
yeah. There have been talks about a third game, and then there's been talks about not, and then doing it, and then not, and it's just never sort of come together from Naughty Dog. So that's, and I know that they're heavily involved. Neil Druckmann, who made the game's heavily involved with the creating of the HBO series. So it's not like they're not going to have the same problems as Game of Thrones, but yeah, I found myself thinking a lot about how this show is going to continue after season 2, I guess.
Well, at the mention of Neil Druckmann, it is worth mentioning his most recent comments regarding the possibility of a third video game. He said, "Don't bet on it." So,
yeah,
taking that into account, the 4-season thing there, I think we're really going to see HBO take their time telling the story. And that's right, because this is an epic story that covers a lot of ground and a lot of characters. So yeah, taking the 7 episodes into account and the timeliness of this trailer, we're exactly 1 month away at the time of this recording. April 13th is when the second season debuts. So, and have heard some scuttlebutt in the trailer. We got to see some of the new actors that we don't really know who they're playing, and Joe Pantoliano is one of those, and apparently he's playing a character named Eugene, and it sounds like he might get the Bill and Frank treatment from last season, where we have an entire episode that focuses on him and his backstory, which I would expect they're probably going to do that in every season since that episode was received so well and got such acclaim. So some other things that stood out to me is Joel was having the conversation with the young kid. I suspect that's probably his nephew. That's probably his brother's kid. And then I think I can dive into this a little bit without getting too spoilery, but we did see more of the factions at play here. So there's a faction called the Seraphites or the Scabs, which is kind of like an egalitarian cult. And then you have the Wolves, which is the Washington Liberation Front, which is led by Jeffrey Wright's Isaac. So I think they're definitely going to spend a lot of time with those factions and the nuance. At certain points in the game, sometimes either one of these factions can seem like a potential ally or a potential enemy. So it's going to be really interesting to see. And certainly there are specific scenes that look like they were lifted right out of the game, but I'm really curious to see the changes they make. And like Catherine O'Hara, for instance, still have no idea who she's playing or how she's going to factor in. But the last thing I got that I found really interesting is that Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann, the showrunner and the game director, were talking about how back when they were considering making this a movie, they were actually considering Caitlin Dever to play Ellie, and she kind of aged out of the role. So they always kind of had her on the periphery and had her in mind and wanted her to do something. So to bring her in as Abby, I think is a cool move. And yeah, physically she is not like the character in the game, but there's, that's why this is an adaptation, and there's room to change things and take a different take. So I'm excited.
Yeah, I saw people talking about that online, like, she doesn't even look like Abby. And it's like, I just simply do not care about that.
Yeah,
like, it's
right.
just like one of those things that it's like, you want me to care about it, and I just simply do not.
Yeah.
Like, it's just, she looks how she looks, and she's an actress. It's fine.
Yeah, that's how I feel too. And I didn't play the game, the second game. I played a little bit of the first one, never finished it. So I don't care about the and now I feel like the surprise is ruined because I've now seen the first season, so I know what the surprise of the game is. I know it's still a very, very meaningful experience.
The draft moment hits harder in the game than it does in the show, I will say.
The what moment?
The draft moment from season 1, where they see the drafts and get to like interact with them and feed them.
Oh, okay. I don't even remember it.
It's kind of
So,
like
yeah,
the
it must
Jurassic
hit
Park
harder in the game.
scene with the Brontosaurus.
Okay, it must hit harder in the game because I don't even remember it from the show. But yeah, I'm excited for this. It's so funny. I can't get away from Walking Dead comparisons just because I've seen like 13 seasons of that show now, and I'm just excited for a show to take that sort of post-apocalyptic zombie world and like take it so seriously. Because I like Walking Dead, I really do, and the first season particularly is amazing. And this is not a new take, but after that, it sort of was too scared of its own shadow and didn't do any big things. I felt like, and I miss the prestige television that was season 1, and this Last of Us was a head above that first season of Walking Dead. But like, I'm excited to see them tackle some of these things that I've always been fascinated by, sort of the factionalism that exists in a world post-apocalyptic zombie type setting, and really dive into those things. And the relationship stuff just looks so solid. So I'm really excited to learn the story, since I'm not going to play the game before this comes out, because I like to be the guy on the podcast who doesn't know what's coming. So maybe I'll play all these games one day.
They're worth it.
The Walking Dead was at its best when it was a human story, like, and it dealt with human, rage and love and fear and anger and all of these types of things. And that's what The Last of Us is. It's a human story. It's set in a backdrop for sure of post-apocalyptic America, but it is a human story. It's about love, and it's about protection and family and anger and revenge, and and that's what makes it so good.
It's what we talk about here all the time on Stranded Panda, and it's not just a zombie thing. It's not just a post-apocalyptic thing. It's a just genre fiction. The whole point is to take these human stories and set them across a backdrop that allows us to tell the human story, not take a cool scene from a zombie thing and make it and give enough of a skeleton to like make a cool scene happen. Like that's not anything that we care about here at Stranded Panda. Like that's decidedly like not what we talk about here. We're not generally coming on to be like, we will say when a fight scene is cool and what we love about it. Like we are nerds in that way, but like that's not why we love this stuff. It's the story, the story being served by the setting, not the other way around. And so I'm obviously they've done that with this show. So season 2 is gonna rock.
Spoilers: those monsters they were referring to weren't just the infected.
I figured that, yeah. That intercut with all the shots of the different factions outside. That's what made me think that. And also, you were talking about this the episode with Bill and Frank. We've been covering Severance, and the last 2 episodes have been very like diversions from the normal series. And that sort. It's interesting, the Bill and Frank thing. It just sort of reminds me of what has been happening with Severance the last 2 episodes, and it is like a cool thing to do, to be able to like tell a completely divergent story that builds to the whole of the rest of the story. Always a sort of it's a brave thing to do, and it's a confident thing to do in these shows. So, all right. Well, that is our main stories for the week. We're going to be right back with so much lightning round. We're recording a little later in the week, and I feel like our lightning round is showing that.
We cultivated it all week.
Yeah, so coming up in that lightning round, we have Sadie Sink joining Spider-Man 4. Crazy Rich Asians is getting a TV series. More Harry Potter casting news. Scarlett Johansson wants us to let go of Black Widow, plus much more. Stay tuned. All that right after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. We have
the evolution. I mean, is it like a horse character now? Like
Multiverse.
Ed has joined.
The word isn't even news anymore. It's just a nay.
It's got a life of its own.
All right. Well, we got a Patreon, everybody. Patreon.com/multiverse newscast. Anybody want to tell them about it?
Sure. Yeah. If you like what we do here, and we know you do, or we hope you do because you're listening to us, you can join us on Patreon at patreon.com/multiverse newscast, where you'll get a very cool patron exclusive sticker. You'll get exclusive content like our Tangent Talks. We recorded a new one this week, and you get special polls, special other content, and you get to chit chat with us. So go join us for $4 a month, just $4 at patreon.com/multiverse newscast. And this week's awesome patron shout out, of course, is Steve Sundrum, who we appreciate along with all the rest of you. We love you. Go join.
Yeah. Steve Sundstrom, thank you. It's interesting. Sundstrom on a Bloodworm Moon night.
Moon.
It seems like he's opposing the Bloodworm Moon with his Sundstrom.
He's the chosen one. Only one can strike down the blood.
Gaib.
We're getting so close to forming a lore. We're like so close.
On the edge of lore.
He that will be born with the Bloodworm Moon.
And I was trying to think, like, Sunstrum even has like a worm, like strum. It sounds very wormish.
Say it really fast.
You know?
Sandworm. Sandworm.
Oh yeah, it almost sounds like sandworm. You're right. Damn.
I assumed that's where you were going with it.
Yeah, I was just like sun and moon is all all I had. The celestial bodies of it all. Well, we also have we did a Spotify poll last week. Did you look at the leaked Doomsday concept art? 46.4 of you said of course, and 53.6 of you said how dare you. Great poll, you guys. I wasn't here for that one. I love it. I'm in the how dare you camp. I did not look at the
Good thing you weren't here last week.
Yeah, I saw that in the rundown that it was part of the discussion, and I was like, I'm not gonna be there for that, and I'm glad that I don't have to look at that story because I don't know anything about it.
It doesn't give too much away, I don't think. I mean, I don't know. Yeah, it's not like you see it and you're like, what?
It's just rumored leaks too, right? Like we're not even sure it's legit.
We got up to the line of pretty much saying we thought they were legit for a couple reasons that we laid out, but
okay.
Yeah, I mean, of course, Marvel is not going to confirm it because, of course, they wouldn't. I mean, nobody will confirm it, but they seemed all the things that could be proving that they're legit were there. It's just so you get as much clarity as you can get, I guess, in that situation.
Okay, maybe I'll check them out.
For what it's worth, I did not get that sinking feeling in the pit of my stomach when I viewed them. I was like, okay, this is cool.
As a group, the three of you, would you recommend going and looking at them?
Yeah, I think they're just more of a vibe than anything.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm abstaining.
You see some characters, but there's no characters that you're like, they've never introduced that guy before. Who's that guy? Like, like it's not like that.
Right.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I don't think it feels right in your heart.
Yeah. What does it feel to you? Like what's
I mean, up till now, I've been like, I don't want to know. If it's real, I don't want to know. And if it's fake, I don't want to know.
Ask the Bloodworm Moon
and let it tell you what's
real. That's a good call.
Wake up at like 2 a.m. and ask it.
Okay.
I don't know how. I don't know if there's like a ritual involved, but Like you have to light it on write it on a piece of paper and then like light it on fire and like throw the ashes up or something. I don't know, but
Yeah.
Or find a worm, ask it, worm, tell me what to do.
yeah, there's worms involved somehow. And your blood.
Check out our merch store for the Bloodworm Moon merch this week that you can
Gotta
use
happen.
Yeah,
We'll just
we've
redo
got
the logo.
we got to mock it up. Yeah, but like instead of the little planets, it's like blood moons.
Yeah,
you know?
with
that's
a worm like running
Yeah.
through it.
a
We're
worm
cooking.
climbing through the multiversal moons. I like it.
If you want that and other merch, go look at the merch we have available.
Yeah, we'll have a merch link in
What a
the
plug.
thing for our Multiverse News Bloodworm Moon merch coming soon.
We have to know.
I like the idea of like not even putting Multiverse News on it, just Bloodworm Moon.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense.
There's no reason, like it does not grow our show whatsoever. Like there's no logo, there's no attachment to us at all.
It's just a weird run of jokes we did on one episode. I love it.
I'm so glad I introduced you guys to Bloodworm Moon. It's been a really great theme this week.
We're all better for it.
Aren't we?
And the show is too.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive into our lightning round. We have a big one this week, so we're going to try to make it a real lightning round like we do. And the way we do that is I'm going to read a story. One of us is going to be able to claim that story by shouting out their name. Whoever claims it first gets to comment on it. And then we can do one rebuttal per lightning round. So we get one response if there's just a story we cannot be silent on. First up, Stranger Things star Sadie Sink has joined the cast of Spider-Man 4. It's unclear who she will play at this time, though Deadline, which first reported the casting news, hinted that her role will be significant. Matt, I really like her in Stranger Things, and I think she's like could be a great addition. She's a redhead, so of course there's a lot of speculation that she's going to be Mary Jane Watson, which we have an MJ, but not a Mary Jane yet. So we'll see if that's what they're doing here. But I also think hair dye exists, and she could be a Gwen Stacy or any other character that they want her to be. There's been speculation about all kinds. It's the MCU. It's not just the Spider-Man universe, so she could be anyone from the Marvel universe. So I don't have big speculation about that except for what I've said so far. But yeah, I think she's great, and I can't wait to see her in this.
Scotty invoking the Bloodworm Moon.
We'll allow it.
Yeah,
we'll allow it.
Thank you. Yeah. I've only seen Stranger Things season 2, so my exposure to Sadie Sink as far as Stranger Things goes is pretty limited, but I have seen her in a couple of films and liked what I saw from her. But I agree. I think the Mary Jane assumptions are kind of a misnomer a little bit. I think Gwen Stacy is more likely, but the one that I've heard that I really like, knowing that this Spider-Man 4 is likely going to involve a lot of multiversal ongoings, Mayday Parker, like an older Mayday Parker that Peter would have to interact with. I think that could be pretty cool. That's
real cool. Disney has released the first full trailer for the upcoming live-action remake of Lilo and Stitch, which hits theaters on May 23rd.
Scotty, I have seen Lilo and Stitch. I know people think I haven't, but I saw it the one time back in 2003 or whatever.
You're not beating the allegations.
Fake fan.
I actually came away. I enjoyed this trailer a fair amount. I really like the sci-fi space sequences where we got to see a lot of aliens. I found myself recalling certain gags and certain scenes from that movie, even though it's been well over 20 years since I saw it. Like I recalled the character named Pleakley, I think he is, the guy that looks like a cyclops that like morphs from human shape to back to alien shape really quickly. So I liked everything that I saw. I like how accurate they're sticking to this version of Stitch, everything from the visual depiction to the voice. I hate to say it though, the one part that's not really landing for me is the child actor playing Lilo, and I'm going to reserve judgment. I don't want to bag on a child actor, but it just doesn't feel like it's there for me. So hopefully, when the movie hits theaters, that's not the case, and we're just seeing kind of the worst of it, and she has a really, powerful and heartfelt performance. But that's kind of the risk when you have performers that are so young. But hopefully, it doesn't tank the whole experience. It looks like it could be fun.
Mm-hmm. A series adaptation of Crazy Rich Asians is in development at Max. Adele Lim, who co-wrote the 2018 film, has been set as showrunner and executive producer, while director John M. Chu will also return as executive producer.
Haley, Max loves their TV shows about horrible rich people, and I also love those TV shows, and this will be right up that alley probably.
All right, so The White Lotus, The Righteous Gemstones, what else do we have?
Succession.
Succession.
Oh,
Whatever it's called,
Succession, of course.
Succession.
What am I
Yeah.
thinking?
And I'm sure we're missing a ton.
By the way, did anyone watch Righteous Gemstones this week?
No.
I haven't started yet.
I saw the big profile guest star talked
It
about,
is
but I haven't not watched it.
so good. It is such a good episode. What we were talking about earlier with the diverting to a character and doing something different. Mwah, it's beautiful.
Is it Baby Billy?
No,
Oh.
I don't think it's a big spoiler. It's just a completely different time frame and everything.
Oh, okay, interesting.
They go back to. I'll give you the quick synopsis if you don't want to know. Just skip forward 30 seconds. 3, 2, 1. They go back to the Civil War and show the first gemstone that became a preacher,
Wow.
and played by Bradley Cooper.
Wow.
And it
That's
is
cool.
so good. It's just a great episode, and like Bradley Cooper brings it real hard. I thought it was awesome. He's a great get. And when I saw it, I was like, he must love this show to like come down and do this show. Turned out he'd never seen the show. They just gave him a script and he liked it and he came and did it. It's just really, really good.
Nice.
All right, up next, Emmy Award-winning comedy Hacks will return for its fourth season on April 10th. Max has also released a first teaser trailer for the upcoming season, which will run for 10 episodes. I think I'm the only one who watched this show. So, Matt, the Hacks is great. I feel like every time a Hacks story comes up, I just have to say Hacks is great. You should all be watching it. And I mean that to you three. You three should all be watching it. It's really great.
Is it about terrible rich people?
One, yes.
There you go.
There's one terrible rich person.
Gene Smart?
Yeah, Gene Smart plays a TV actress who has had a long storied career and is now a hack comedian in Las Vegas doing her show. And then they pair her with a writer who's like a young sort of like social justice-y, like punk, like I want to like disrupt the system and you're a feminist icon if you wanted to be, and like sort of pushes her to tell more personal stories about being a woman in the industry. And so there's this really interesting dynamic where they're both constantly calling each other on their bullshit. Like you're young and idealistic and full of shit, and you're old and jaded and full of shit, and it just really like works really well. And the dynamic, they're kind of always friends and always enemies. So this season seems like it's taking both of those dynamics and supercharging them, because they're both moving into bigger places in their career, and it seems like supercharging them as people that kind of need each other and challenge each other, but also pushing them in a way that is making them fight even more, and it's going to be fun. It's a great show.
Nice.
Okay, up next, Netflix has released the trailer for and first look images for the 5th and final season of its psychological thriller series You. The series begins streaming on April 14th.
Jay, am I the only one that watches You?
Mm-hmm.
I don't
guess.
Not me.
It's an interesting show. It's gotten really schlocky in the last few seasons, but I think that's kind of what it wants to be a little bit. It started off being very serious and was trying to tell the whole like I'm actually the murderer type story the whole time type thing, and then it just started getting really wild. Like he goes off and he's evading the police in England, and then he's back over in this place, and it's just like it gets kind of wild. So I guess what I hope from this last season of You, which I thought the trailer was good. He's back where he started. He's back in New York. That's where the show started before it started getting kind of off the rails a little bit. And I think they have a chance to just kind of close it out, like kind of bring it to a close and be like, hey, this was the journey that we went on, and it went in a lot of directions, but we can sort of bring it back to why you watched it in the first place and end it on that note.
All right. Have they had a lot of space between seasons on this show?
Yeah, it's been drawn out a little bit.
Okay, I did not know this show still existed. I remember it being a big thing.
It's been a long time.
It feels
between
like
the last two. Yeah.
Yeah, it feels like
5
forever
seasons
ago.
On Netflix, that's an anomaly right there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not like a dating show that has 5 seasons in a year.
Or The Crown. Yeah. Whatever else.
Or The Crown. David Arquette will officially reprise his role as Dewey Riley from the first 5 Scream movies in the upcoming 7th installment of the horror franchise.
Scotty, minor spoilers for Scream 5.
Uh-oh.
Dewey died. So I think had this news come out a couple of weeks ago, it probably would have gotten more of a reaction out of people, but it makes sense at this point. They've already brought back Scott Foley from Scream 3. Our close personal friend Matthew Lillard from all the way back to Scream 1 is making a return. So it seems to not really matter, the fates of characters. There might be flashbacks. There might be, who knows what kind of explanation they have on their hands. But when you're bringing back Neve Campbell and the whole crew, of course you want to have David Arquette there. It wouldn't be Scream without him.
Disney is hosting a Hollywood premiere of Snow White on March 15th, but the studio won't be rolling out the red carpet like it usually does. The afternoon festivities will include a pre-party and screening at the El Capitan Theater, with stars Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot expected to attend. However, the red carpet will not include the dozens of media outlets usually invited by Disney to interview the cast and creatives at its premiere. Instead, coverage will be limited to photographers and house crew.
Haley, this is so funny. This movie is such a disaster, and they know it.
Oh
they know it so hard.
Yeah, they know they're
and that's
cooked,
why they're
which
doing
is why
this.
they're doing this. Yeah,
100%. Period. I'm done. That's all.
Yeah, I guess I'll tiny butt into this one to say, like, we've talked about this. If you need the quick summary, like, why is Snow White in trouble? Well, it's just the stars don't like each other. Like, Rachel Zegler and Gal Gadot do not like each other. They did this weird forced presentation at the Oscars together. They've done no press together whatsoever. Like, if you were doing this movie, you would put them into interviews together. Like, that only makes sense. It's Snow White and the Witch. Like, you should put them together.
Evil Queen.
Whatever.
Right,
Yeah, it's you put them together in the thing, and you do the interviews and all that type of stuff. It's on, whatever, like podcasts and late night shows and all that. They've done none of that. Gal Gadot is bopping around New York. I think Rachel Zegler's in Japan right now promoting it. Like, they've got them on opposite sides of the world. They've expressed different viewpoints on conflict in the Middle East, and I think that's raised a lot of tension between the two of them. There will be protesters at this premiere, like there were at Captain America Brave New World premiere, for example, and I think that's part of it. And they don't want people sticking a mic in Rachel Zegler's face and being like, what do you think about Israel and Palestine? And they don't want people sticking a mic into Gal Gadot's face and being like, Rachel Zegler said this. Do you agree with her about Israel and Palestine? Like, they just, it's like, they're just like, we got to get this movie over with. Like, that's the attitude, I feel like. And this premiere just confirms it.
Cut down on the drama and just try to hope families
just
will
get it
see
out
a
there
Disney movie.
and get it out there and get it done.
Yeah.
Well, while we're talking about this one, I'll go ahead and mention, for whatever reason, I didn't find out until very recently that the director of this thing is Mark Webb. And I just had a moment where I was like, wow, what a fall from grace. Like, this guy did 500 Days of Summer. And then he went into The Amazing Spider-Man, then The Amazing Spider-Man 2, which I maintain is one of the worst comic book movies of all time. And now he's got this on his hand. Like, poor guy. You're doing so well. And your last name's Webb. Spider-Man should have been perfect.
Right?
You can't even write that kind of coincidence.
Yes, you can. Stan Lee and all those guys did it every week. Like,
he's got stretchy powers and his name's Mr. Stretch or Mr. Stretch or something. It's
yeah, exactly.
That's a little too on the nose.
Mr. Philip Stretch. Or like Philip Long, and he stretches. I don't know. Yeah, it's that all the time. Bong Joon-ho's sci-fi space epic Mickey 17 has finally landed at the box office, where it opened to a sluggish $19.1 million domestically. Nevertheless, it was more than enough to come in at number 1 at the box office with a $53.3 million worldwide total. Captain America Brave New World took second place with $8.5 million domestically, bringing its worldwide total to $370.8 million in its fourth weekend.
Scotty, I did see Mickey 17 this weekend, and to give you a little mini review, I loved the first 2/3, and I liked the last third. So I do think it's worth your time. It's worth going and seeing, because what's the big complaint about movies for like, the last 5 years or whatever? All it is IP. All it is franchises. All it is sequels and reboots and yada, yada, yada. And here you have a brand new, fresh piece of IP. Yes, it was adapted from a book called Mickey 7, which I was not aware of until very recently. Shout out to Source Pages for their Instagram book review there. But yeah, it's a little bit of a mixed bag. So yeah, you look at $19.1 million domestically against a $118 million budget.
Oof.
Not a great start, but it is encouraging to me that the studio gave Bong Joon-ho that kind of budget to create this movie, because he's coming off of Parasite. I do think Parasite's a better movie, which is why it got the Best Picture award there. But this is a movie that's worth checking out. It's got the budget behind it. It has some really interesting questions at play. Robert Pattinson gives a great performance. So that's where, again, I just come away disappointed, because, again, we want new. Here's new, and nobody goes to see it. So you got to support these things if you want to continue to see these kind of things. Otherwise, it's just going to be more of the same, and you have nobody to blame but yourself.
Yeah. I'm going to try to go catch it probably tomorrow. I really wanted to go see it on opening weekend and did not get to, because I've got family stuff going on. But me and you, Jay Scotty, talked about covering this on the show, but I didn't get to go see it. So maybe we'll get a review in the feed and encourage people even more to go see it.
Yeah.
Netflix has released the first official trailer for season 7 of sci-fi anthology series Black Mirror. The series will begin streaming on April 10th.
Jay, something that's cool about this is that this is the first time Black Mirror has ever continued an episode. Typically, the episodes close at the end. And this season has a continuation of an episode called USS Callister, which is sort of an offshoot of, it's kind of a Star Trek sort of kind of episode. But Kristen Milioti is the star of that episode, and this was before the Penguin. And so I think it's going to be interesting to see her now on this other side, and it looks cool. It looks like a cool continuation of that story. So I think most people who like Black Mirror are most excited for that, and that was the showcase of the trailer. But should be an exciting season. I mean, I've been on record, Black Mirror, it's kind of hit or miss for me. Like sometimes the seasons, like 3 or 4 of the episodes will really hit, and then like one will be like an all-timer, and then like 3 of them you can just forget, So I'm hoping we can see that sort of be a little bit more on the different side than kind of what we've gotten used to with Black Mirror a little bit.
In an interview with In Style, Scarlett Johansson spoke on the potential return of Black Widow in the MCU, saying Natasha is dead. She is dead. She's dead. Okay. They're like, but she could come back. Look, I think the balance of the entire universe is held in her hand. We're going to have to let it go. She saved the world. Let her have her hero moment.
Haley, ScarJo said, make death matter, and it does.
Absolutely. Full Metal Jacket, Oppenheimer, and Stranger Things actor Matthew Modine has closed a deal to join the cast of Legendary's latest installment of its Godzilla Kong movie franchise.
Is that you, John Wayne? Is this me? If you didn't recognize that was a line from Full Metal Jacket, which is far and away my favorite performance from Matthew Modine. I think he has a tendency to kind of slip into the background and kind of become unrecognizable in a lot of the roles he's taken since then, because when I read that he was in Oppenheimer, I had to go back and look to see who he was, and I've seen that movie 3 times, and I just completely forgot that he's in the thing. So this is encouraging. We've heard more and more about how the Godzilla Kong franchise is looking to continue what it's been doing so well with the Titans, but maybe give us some more interesting human characters to grab onto. So Jack O'Connell recently joined the fray. We know that Dan Stevens is going to be returning as Trapper. So it sounds like Matthew Modine, the speculation is that he's going to be playing some kind of general. So I think given his track record, that makes a lot of sense. He's probably going to be a guy that you can't wait to see either smushed or just gobbled up in some great fashion. So I'm here for it.
That's so true. Popular romantasy series Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yaros will be adapted into graphic novels per the bookseller website. 10-Speed Graphics, Piatkus, and Entangled Publishing will produce the series.
Haley, if you have a Fourth Wing fan in your life, and I know our audience is largely male, so it might not be you, but you probably know somebody who is, they'll be excited to hear this because we love collecting our Fourth Wing editions. And don't forget that this is being adapted by Amazon to a show, and Rebecca Yarros herself has said she's very excited with the directions they're going.
I'll still making my way through Third Wing. Sorry.
Can you start with Fourth Wing, or do you have to read first, second, and third?
All of you just shut up.
Apple TV Plus's Shrinking has added 2-time Emmy winner Jeff Daniels to the cast of season 3. Daniels will play Jason Segel's character Jimmy's father. Matt. This seems like amazing casting. I love this. Jeff Daniels has proven himself to me. We were talking about it earlier today. The fact that he's so amazing in Newsroom as this very serious character, and I think that's one of his standout roles. But then he's also absolutely amazing in Dumb and Dumber, and can go the wide range that he can play and be amazing. Is just so cool. I love that kind of an actor who, like, literally if he had never done anything else except those 2 roles, I'd be like, yeah, give him anything. Like, just give him anything. Like, that's such a wide range, and to be amazing at both is so cool. So I'm into this, and as Jimmy's father is just great casting. Jason Segel and him have similar like looks to them, body types. It just seems like it's going to be a perfect fit, and the show having that balance of like kind of silly comedy mixed with really heartfelt emotions. I think he's going to be great. I'm really excited for this. Sony has won the bidding war for Zach Krieger's upcoming adaptation of Resident Evil. The studio has set a release date of September 18th, 2026 for the project.
Scotty, yeah, if you don't recognize the name Zach Krieger, he is the guy that did Barbarian from a few years ago. So again, we've been talking about like what's going to be the new thing. It seems like product-based movies are certainly a contender, but again and again, I think video games are a strong contender as well. And I've been on record saying that I think generally they work better as series, but Resident Evil already has a long history of being on the big screen. So I think this has the potential, if Sony, gives Zach the time and space and the budget to do this thing right, like this could be a huge property and be kind of a tentpole event going forward. And that's my hope, but I won't hold my breath.
Yeah. I'll use my rebuttal here and just say, like, this is what I was thinking of earlier when I was talking about how the zombie setting and how you can either make it about the characters and use the setting to inform that, or you can make movies that hold together just enough story to go from action sequence to action sequence. And that is the Resident Evil franchise for me. I don't know if they will, maybe this will elevate. I actually loved watching those like in high school, and I went to every one in the theater for like the first, 9 or 10. There's not that many, but there's a lot. I went to a lot of them in the theaters. And I recently watched a 2-hour YouTube video about how the Resident Evil series almost deliberately subverts their own endings. Like almost every Resident Evil movie ends with like an interesting concept, like, oh, this is happening next. And then they intentionally undo it at the beginning of the next one. It's like the writers have no plan whatsoever. And apparently it's the same writer in a lot of them. And he just like writes an ending where like, oh, this is going to happen now. And at the very beginning of the next one, they like quickly undo whatever it was and then start over. And it's a really funny YouTube video with it just like making fun of how slapdash that series seems. And it is, but it's got great action and it's fun and it's mind candy. So I've enjoyed it. But it is definitely like the quintessential example of just enough story to like hang together some action sequences. According to a casting rumor from Deadline, 3-time Grammy winner Charlie XCX is being eyed to play the White Witch in Greta Gerwig's upcoming adaptation of Narnia for Netflix.
Haley, I like literally don't know anything about Charlie XCX except it was Brat Summer last year. Like, I don't know. Sorry, I'm old. I was initially excited about Greta doing Narnia. Doing it on Netflix does make me pause, and then like I know it's kind of controversial. I did not like her take on Little Women, so I don't know. I'm getting nervous.
Definitely a bold choice in a different direction to put Charlie XCX in that.
Like, it might be great. She might be just otherworldly enough for it.
She signed up for this before Barbie, so it's kind of like, would she have done Narnia for Netflix after Barbie? I don't know if the answer is yes. You know what I'm saying? Would that have been your Barbie follow-up? I don't know.
I think I want to say I heard like in passing that her take on Narnia was described as like a rock and roll take on Narnia. So if that's the case, bringing in Charlie XCX, maybe it has like some musical numbers. And if you want to take, the White Witch Jadis and make her a little bit younger, I think that works if we're dealing with like younger actors portraying Edmund and the Pevensies and what have you. What are you laughing at so much? Did I do a rubbing his horn thing unintentionally?
No, I'm laughing at Haley's face when you said musical numbers and talked about it being a rock and roll version. Haley's face was just
we lost her.
Like, she's like, nope. I'm officially not excited.
Whatever.
Is I think what that face was. She said she was on the edge.
Sounds great.
We've talked a lot about Harry Potter, and it seems like the Harry Potter adaptation is leaning more towards the books, like trying to flesh them out and put all the stuff that the movies couldn't do into the series. And it just seems like this is like the other direction of that. It's like they have a version recently of Narnia, and they're like, okay, let's do something completely different from the books and maybe, I don't know, if those, Charlie XCX and it being a rock and roll version, those sound very different vibes than what I think of when I think of Narnia. HBO is closing in on 2 main cast members for its high-profile Harry Potter series, sources tell Deadline. Oscar and Emmy-nominated actress Janet McTeer is in negotiations to play Professor Minerva McGonagall. Additionally, Emmy nominee Papa Essiedu, one of the first actors identified for the series, is closing his deal to portray Professor Severus Snape.
Jay, we have already talked about Snape whenever that was being rumored, so we probably don't need to go into that too much again. People have their thoughts on the difference in appearance between Alan Rickman and, and this new generation, and we'll just leave it at that. I mean, I think most of us were kind of just like, we don't really care about that, at all. But of course, the internet is going to internet, and people are like, I don't know, whatever.
Some of the memes are like not safe for work.
Yeah, I saw some truly
like
disgusting stuff like the day that it was announced, and I was just like, everybody just is trying to ruin everything all the time, and it's annoying. Yeah. But I will say that Janet McTeer, the most recent thing that I saw her in was Ozark, and she is amazing in Ozark. And I can totally see McGonagall from the character that she portrayed in that show. Like if you see her in Ozark, totally makes sense. I think that is slam dunk casting.
Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves writer John Francis Daly and Jonathan Goldstein have struck a deal to write a movie based on the board game Monopoly. Lionsgate is behind the project and is being produced by Lucky Chap and Hasbro Entertainment.
Haley, I'm still on board with the live action Monopoly. I think it sounds really weird and fun, and I think it could be so surreal in the way that Barbie was, and just be hilarious. And I'm sure they could find some bizarre, timely messaging about the housing market and weird stuff like that. That's so relatable, honestly. I don't know. I'm all in on this Monopoly movie. It's so stupid, but I am.
Tiny but the original game what that Monopoly is based on was supposed to be a showcasing how terrible capitalism is. That was literally it was designed by forget. It was designed by someone who was trying to show this is what capitalism is and these are the flaws in it. And then it was picked up by Parker Brothers and turned into the most capitalist game of all time. That,
hey, I'm making you go bankrupt. I'll win. I mean, the main character's name is literally Milburn Pennybags. It's supposed to be a critique of capitalism.
Okay, so it sounds like. Oh, are you saying? Oh, the Moneybags is the little icon guy, or is that the main character of the movie?
No, like the Monopoly man.
The mascot. Okay, because I was going to say, I don't know how much we know about this movie, but is it going to be like a real world interpretation? Like where it's just like Monopoly set in the real world? Or is it going to be meta where like I would kind of love if they have like a natural disaster occur in world and then you zoom out and somebody's just flipped the board in frustration, because that definitely happened in my house.
Yeah.
Oh,
well,
Lucky
Lucky Chuck is Margot Robbie's
thing.
production company, so
we've already called our shot that the Monopoly man will be Chris Pratt, played by Chris Pratt.
Oh God!
Yeah, right.
How dare you remember that?
If there's not a reference to flipping the board, I think that will be a mistake. To me, the vibe for this that I want is like Hudsucker Proxy. Like that's what I would like for this. That's sort of like slightly removed from reality, but still like it's realistic in a way, but like removed enough that it's self-referential and it's sort of Barbie vibes,
like
I
Barbie.
guess. Yeah, totally.
Hi, Barbie.
Ryan Hurst, known for his role in Sons of Anarchy and The Walking Dead, has joined the cast of Christopher Nolan's The Odyssey.
Haley, okay, whatever.
Honestly,
I'm so tired of it already.
They're just they're filming this right now, and they're adding people.
saw a first look at Tom Holland. I saw a set photo earlier today.
Ooh.
Was feeling a little lukewarm about it, that's all I'll say. But somebody's comment on the post was like, I want to be excited about this because it's Christopher Nolan, but it's just all these actors shoved in this movie, and I'm like... Yes, I didn't write that comment, but that's how I feel about it.
I saw the photo too. Strong Frodo Baggins vibes out of Tom Holland's outfit.
Yeah, 100%.
Interesting. All right. Well, that is the show this week, guys. We love being here with you guys and talking. Please follow up with those reviews that we have. strandedpanda.com. Click on that banner. It'll give you all the instructions to win that PS5.
Go get that PS5.
Go get it. Get that PS5.
Go get it. It's yours. Claim it.
Spider-Man games and Black Panther games.
The Bloodworm Moon will guide you. Go get it.
You will be chosen.
I think the actual link is strandedpanda.com/PS5. That's all you got to do. Click that in. It'll give you instructions. And we'll be doing that for another few more weeks. Yeah. Thanks so much for joining us here on the show. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing, eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. strandedpanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts, and thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.